Thank you for joining me today for this 30-minute webcast about how to modernize your IBM System I output by converting reports and forms to PC-friendly formats that can be automatically distributed and archived, helping you move towards a more paperless office. Now, getting IBM System I data into PC-friendly formats can be challenging. Users and customers often want the data in formats they can analyze, sort, email. The most common formats I see being requested are PDF and Excel, which are good formats for that. Now, most programmers and senior management will not give database-level access to users, so how can we get these reports converted into those user-friendly formats? One of the most common methods is to contact the IT staff and request that they convert the report. Now, they're going to manually drag the data from the System I to their desktop and then manually import that into Excel, cutting and pasting and reformatting to make the report readable. There's a tremendous potential for human error here, not to mention the time that it takes to complete these repetitive tasks. The resulting file can be a real mess, requiring tweaking and reformatting. You're going to see this a lot with applications that output only CSV. The headings and columns can be formatted incorrectly if the headings appear at all. Negative signs are often dropped by Excel in the import process, and really there's just a lot of things that you can go wrong. Fortunately, there's a better way. Introducing SpoolFlex native System I software that modernizes your legacy application output by converting directly to the desired PC-friendly format, including Excel, PDF, without programming or modifications or a PhD in computer science. You can see here that the converted output is perfectly formatted, requires no further formatting. Colorizing and highlighting make the analysis easier. All of this adds up to a standardized conversion method, reliable output data, and a tremendous time savings. Now, there's two main components involved in report and document output management. First of all, report distribution is the vast majority of your daily reports, including sales reports, finance reports, production reports, payroll reports, etc. Now, some of these are going to be manually photocopied, others will be filed, some will just get the data off of them and throw them away. Others are manually split and torn apart and then mailed. Then there are those documents, which are the forms you trade with business partners like invoices, statements, purchase orders, and order acknowledgments. Well, processing them is typically no better. Expensive pre-printed forms are printed on impact printers, burst, copied, filed, emailed. If they need to be resent, then you have to pull a copy from a filing cabinet, maybe on a different floor, and then fax them by hand and then refiled. This whole area just screams for modernization. So let's consider some steps that can be quickly employed that'll show an immediate return on investment with increased productivity and reduced costs. Let's start by looking at how easy it is to start converting those legacy application outputs directly to electronic formats like Excel and PDF, and then push those reports out to the user so they can receive their important data in real time. Now, once the reports are being delivered to the users in these user-friendly formats that they can use immediately, you can maximize your efficiency by automating that process. Then the third prong will be to add the electronic forms into the mix. Using the same emailing and distribution backbone, we'll be able to do the same thing with electronic invoicing, delivery of statements, archiving, etc. But let's get away from PowerPoint for a moment and take a look at some actual green screen software. This is the main menu of the DRV Flex tools. As you can see, we have several different options, including SpoolFlex, which is our report conversion and distribution software, FormFlex, which is our electronic forms software, and then we have ReportFlex. ReportFlex is a report reformatter. It gives you the ability to make changes to spooled file output without having any programming. There's no changes to your source code. And then finally, MessageFlex is a system monitor that can monitor message queues for specific messages or message types and notify you by email or even send a text message to your cell phone. But we're going to focus on these two options today, the SpoolFlex and FormFlex tools, and we'll take option number one first. All of our software packages are modular, so you can customize the application to fit your specific requirements. In this case, you may have 3 different types of implementation just for electronic report distribution. Perhaps you just want a tool that you can use interactively. Well, our e-delivery does that. That will convert reports and email them, but it does require an interactive person to go in and find a spool file and put the commands on it to convert or email. We have a user interface called the Manage Spool File menu for that. It's very similar to the work out queue command, only on steroids. Another method to implement this or roll it out might be interactively. For example, maybe your controller, all they want to do is go into their financial package, type in a date range, and then have that spool file automatically get converted to an Excel spreadsheet and emailed to them without any further interaction. They don't even have to know how SpoolFlex works. This can be set up and be fully automated. The third method might be to set up scheduling so that maybe month-end reports or end-of-day reports are monitored for, and then when they're seen, automatically converted and distributed to an individual or a group of people that are supposed to receive that report. So there's a lot of flexibility here, but let's look at some hard examples. Let's say I get a phone call, and this is our Manage Spool File screen, and I can search for reports just like I do with the Manage Spool or with the Work Out Queue command. I even have the same IBM commands here in blue, and then down below we've got our SpoolFlex commands in purple. So the sales manager gives me a call and says, hey, can you send me today's sales figures? Not a problem. I'm going to put an E next to it to email it. As you can see in our command right there, E for the sales report, right there. Hit enter, and it's going to ask me, well, what address do you want to send this to? I can key in an email address, or I can select the name from an address book in the SpoolFlex software. And I'll key in a subject. I can key in a message. Notice that the default is PDF. Oops, there it goes. That was easy. 2 keystrokes, and I just completely averted the printing process. Now, this is only a 4-page report, but many of our clients have sales reports or other reports several thousand pages long. Well, if you could do that, just think of the cost savings just in paper by not having to print that report. And more importantly, the sales director just got his report instantly. And as you can see, SpoolFlex took a snapshot of the report, converted it to PDF, and emailed it. All of that took just a few keystrokes, and it was really simple. There's salesman page 1, page 2, page 3 for salesman 100, 200, and 300. Pretty slick. Very simple and very, very efficient. Now, maybe I get a phone call again, and this time it's the sales director again. What he'd like to do this time is I've got a sales meeting with the president in 15 minutes. Can you help me get that same report into Excel? Normally I would just key it in, but I don't have time. Well, using the convert utility, I'm going to put a C on the file and hit enter. And it's asking me what output type do I want. I can go to an output definition, which is like a template that you can set up that will give intelligent naming. It defines what output type you're going to use, whether it's Excel, PDF, etc., and where to put it, electronically file it out on a network file server or the IFS, or to email it. So we're going to choose the real simple Excel conversion. We're going to say this is the sales report. Now notice this is placing this out in the DRV directory, but I could just as easily place this out on my network file server or a web server, what have you. I'm going to hit enter. Now instead of just ripping into the conversion, the software has a couple of questions. It's more complex than a snapshot because it's Excel. It wants to know where your column headings are located, which on the spool file down below here are visible. Why does it want to know that? Well, if you've ever converted a report to CSV and imported it, you'll notice that the headings get messed up quite a bit. What we do is we define the report heading and the column heading and the detail separately, just simply by defining that column heading location. The way we did that was visually, right here on the screen, using the F7 button. As you can see, all you have to do is mark the first line of the heading with the F7 button, and you see how it highlights it. The next thing the software is going to do is it's going to run an analysis looking at the minimum number of spaces between either report heading or column heading or the detail. And if it sees, in this case, 2 spaces, that's going to insert a column break. So this would be column A. This would be column B, etc. Now maybe you've got more complex reports that have subheadings that cross over from one to the other. Well, that's fine. We can handle that as well. We have the ability to set up a template that would treat the headings as, that's for lack of a better word, an exception. Now notice I'm not using any PC tools that are unique to our software. Everything is Windows. I've been using Windows Explorer. I've been using PDF. But here I've got a mapped drive to the IFS. Now this could also be a mapped drive to my file server. I'm going to double click on the sales report that we just generated a moment ago. And hey, look at that. There's the report we saw as a PDF, now converted to Excel. Very nice, very clean. Notice your headings are defined in merged cells. Your column headings are bold, but they are associated with each appropriate column. Even my negative numbers correctly formatted. Now there's more formatting I might want to do. Perhaps I would want my total lines to automatically be bold, or I might want to do things like centering data or something to make it spruce up a little bit. But for our purposes, hey, that's not bad for what? 2 keystrokes. Let's go back to the green screen and try something else. Let's say I get another phone call. It's the sales director. Go figure. He says, hey, the meeting with the president went great. He's thrilled to hear that this new utility you're using allows you to get these reports out in formats that not only he and I can use, but we think this would be a real valuable tool. Today, the salesmen are waiting 2 to 3 days for the printed reports to get mailed to them. If we want to FedEx them, that's a substantial cost to the company, but is there some way that you could get this report to them in Excel spreadsheets, maybe email to them or something like that? The one problem is that the president really wants these guys getting just their own data. He doesn't want them sharing data and bickering over the number of leads they get or whatever. So maybe what we could do is say, burst it apart. How would you do that? Well, today, there's 2 ways you might do that. You might print them off and then manually burst the reports apart, right? Or you could run each individual salesman as a separate run. Well, or you could instead set up a distribution with the software called a report distribution that does the bursting for you. In this case, this report is going to look in a specific outqueue for sales reports. It's going to filter through everything else, looking at the form type sales in this case, or the file name or user data. That's not enough. We can actually pick up on about 15 different variables, so you can drill down and filter out exactly the reports you want to distribute. When it sees the correct spool file, the report distribution is going to burst the report into selected pages by salesman number. And it's going to place them out in a unique directory out on my network file server. Okay, each one's going to be intelligently named and placed into a unique folder just for each sales guy. The entire report is going to be sent to the sales director as an Excel spreadsheet by email, as an attachment. To make it really slick, we're also going to send an email to each of the sales guys with a dynamically built link that lets them just click on the email, open it up, and click on that link, and it'll find their folder or their file out on the network file server. And you can control everything, things in the email. You can pull in the file name into the subject of the email. You can pull in different variables. Now, I'm going to run this manually by putting a D on it to distribute it. But this type of thing would most commonly be implemented using our spool sentry. And the spool sentry is think of a job scheduler that you could set up to monitor and wake up throughout the day, several times a day, and find the report that we're interested in, and voila, send them to the people that are supposed to receive them. So here you see, here's what the sales director is receiving. Notice that it's intelligently named sales report, the date the spool file was generated, that's a pretty old one, I better get a new one, and the company that it was generated for. All of this was built into an output definition that pulled that intelligent information, and it also provided the formatting that you see here, centering, colorization, headings frozen in place. This even did an analysis looking for sales greater than 70% profitable, negative numbers automatically highlighted in red, and my total lines were all highlighted. Now wait a minute, I thought we were talking about bursting the report. Well, this is the report that went to the sales director. Let's look at what each of the individual sales guys gets. Let me close that emails before I get too many going. All right, so here's what, for example, salesman 100 would get. No attachment, okay? He gets this link, this dynamically built link that says the location of the server, the drawer or folder in that on that server. Subdirectories might be customer number, in this case sales report, and the actual name of the report itself. All of this is dynamically pulled when the report is generated from the spool file. Now you'll take a look at this and you'll notice instead of the report that we saw a moment ago with all those the data for all the different characters, this is just going to be the sales activity for salesman 100. As you can see, very nicely formatted. This did the sales analysis of 2 sales greater than 70% profitable, and it's just the data for salesman 100. So salesman 200 will just get his data. Salesman 300 will get just his data. And what we're talking about here would be, oops, lost my cursor there, something like this. Here's out on my server. I've got the folder set up so that you got salesman 100, 200, and salesman 300. And here's their report. See, notice this is just salesman 300's data. So it's been, each one was placed in the unique folder. Now you can control that with Windows security if you don't want them to have access to it. That's all, network stuff, but not too bad. And notice I have everything coming to me, so don't be alarmed by that. Okay, so now we've showed some pretty impressive stuff with regards to a distribution of a day-to-day report that can be fully automated. Let's say I was the controller, and the controller might want to do something a little bit differently. Maybe take a sales a report like this P&L report. And with this P&L report, this looks like a typical financial report. Well, I want to take this report and I want to email it to the controller whenever he requests it. Now today what he does whenever he wants this report, he calls me, has me set it up, can download it to the desktop. No. What I want to do is I want to set it up so that it automatically monitors for the spool file to come into existence. So no matter how many times he generates it throughout the week, it will automatically email it to him. Not only that, but it's going to identify that he is the one requesting it, because sometimes it could be the CFO, it could be the controller, it could be the assistant controller. It just depends on who's generating the report and who needs it. All I have to do is to create an address book that contains their user profile and their email address, so that when the spool file is generated, it can identify, in this case, C. David is the one that generated that P&L spooled file, and instead of it going to an active writer, to a printer, it is being intercepted by SpoolFlex, converted to PDF, and emailed to me because of the email address in that address book. Here's the email I got. It says here's your profit and loss for the date that it was generated for this company. Double click on it, and there's that spool file we were viewing just a moment ago. Pretty slick. Headings are frozen in place again. Total lines automatically highlighted. Again, just a nice, very efficient way to get the data instantly into the hands of the person that needs it. Now I have similar concepts set up with electronic forms. That's that third portion. Before we go into that, let me show you how that was automated using a spool sentry. The spool sentry, for example, can be set up as a scheduler or an interactive tool. It depends on how immediate the need is. In this case, every Monday through Friday, this sentry is going to run continuously throughout the day every 5 minutes. And what it's going to do, it's going to be looking for that P&L report, and when it sees it, it's going to run the distribution that you just saw me execute manually. So once I submit this, it becomes like a robot, continually monitoring for that spool file, and instead of printing, it gets picked up, converted, and emailed to the person that generated it. Now let's take a slightly different approach to that concept and say, well, what if I was a buyer and I wanted to take a purchase order and I wanted to email a purchase order to myself? Okay, well that's pretty simple to do too. Maybe I want to review it. Today I might print it off on a pre-printed form. I might want to send it to the printer, print it, take a look at it, make sure everything was correct. Well, that's all well and good, but that wastes all that paper, doesn't it? So what I can do is I can come over, I already deleted all that stuff off. What I can do is come over and take a look and see what was emailed to me as a PDF, and that's what it just did. It took my purchase order, merged an electronic form with the spool data so that I get the following. Now, instead of printing it, I'm just going to get this PDF. I can double click on it. Of course, it goes to the other monitor. And voila. That's a pretty nice looking PO. And just keep in mind, electronic forms are a great way to make sure that you're putting your company's best foot forward, because you can tweak this to look really, really outstanding. I've seen some electronic forms that other clients have been using before they got up and running with the form flags. And let me just say, that is a reflection on your company. Please take into consideration what it looks like when you send even if it's a PO or more importantly, an invoice or something like that. That's a reflection on your professionalism. Wow, look at this, looks pretty darn good. We've got logos, we've got watermarks, we've got color images in here. Notice this, I can even have something set up with a website if I want to click for payment information, terms and conditions, things like that. Notice here's the PO number. That was actually pulled into the name of the PDF. Using an output definition, we also can add signatures. These signatures are conditional on the total. So if it's less than 0, there won't be a signature. If it's over $100,000, you can set it up to not print a signature too, but it can be based on whoever is generating the PO as to which signature they use. So now from here, if I want, I can email it, or if I don't want to email it from Adobe and I want to keep it on the 400, I can come back in and send the email from here as well. Now, the other alternative that I might have would be to run maybe my statements. Now with the statements, I can go out, and I can set up a full distribution that's going to run all of my statements automatically. So that we can store customer ID in an address book along with their email addresses, so that whether it's a statement or an invoice, what have you, instead of printing them, our forms can be automatically emailed. Maybe you have 100 statements in a single run. Our software can burst that apart so that each individual is an individual statement, intelligently named, so that each customer gets their own unique statement and it has some value, some pertinent name to it. For example, they're starting to all arrive. They're all coming to me again, of course. But the point here is that when it's email, we can look up maybe PineSoft up in an address book and email that to them. Maybe only 40 or 50% of your customers will agree to this, but that's 40 or 50% reduction in the amount of printing and manual processing you're doing with the invoices today. I know a number of companies are now implementing electronic invoicing as a standard, and if their customers require a hard copy to be sent to them, they charge a service charge. I don't know that applies in every industry, but I've seen it done. But the cost savings is phenomenal. One of our clients is saving over $750,000 per year just with electronic invoicing. Well, let's take a look at what they get. Here, for example, is notice it pulled the customer number and the statement number. That's terrific. In the subject, it actually pulled the actual name of the customer, called Garage Doors. Let's zoom out a little bit. And this is a real simple statement that I put together. But notice it's got some neat stuff. It's got your logo. It's got some color. It's got rounded boxes. It's got the intelligent barcoding for the Postal Service. But notice that there's no signature on this one, and that's because there's no total. Let's go down to page 2. Oh, there's a signature because there is a total. Very nice. And this is, we can do multi-part forms. This is saying this is the customer copy. Very sweet. Very sweet. Now, what we've shown is that you can reduce the cost of the delivery by emailing it. We've shown that you can automate the distribution of both reports as well as the documents. But what about, if I'm the accounts receivable clerk and one of our, customers hasn't paid us. I want to go in and say, well, listen, customer PineSoft, I want to be able to send you, why haven't you paid us? Of course, they'll say, well, I never received that, so why don't you go ahead and resend that to me? Yeah, okay, so what I normally would do is schlep down to the filing cabinet and go down and, pull it out, copy it, maybe fax it, maybe remail it. The whole process may start over again. But what if, sitting at my desk, I could just, with a couple of keystrokes, click in and say, I want to search by a date range and see everything that was sent in a certain date range, or see everything that was sent to a certain individual, maybe C. David. Or maybe what I want to do is, using our index, I can do an index search. We have an index set up for statements, called sample statements, which stores values that are pulled from the spool data. So maybe I'm looking for Pine somebody. I want to see everything that was sent to the Pine somebodies. Oops, I hit the wrong one. Sorry about that. Yeah, that's in the document name. We need the name of the company instead. At least it knows I'm not playing. Oh, there we go. That's everything that has been sent to the Pine people. And there's PineSoft. It includes, it's pulled values like the statement number or the customer number, the statement number, the statement total. So if I wanted, I could even say, I want to find all the statements that were sent to PineSoft between in the last 6 months that the total was greater than $5,000. And with one keystroke, I can resend it. I could change the recipient. Maybe their spam filter doesn't like it. I could send it to their Yahoo account or something like that. Maybe before I send it, I might want to do this. Watch this. I just launched Adobe from my AS400. I can view it. What it did is it took the original file and it pulled it up so I can see it before I actually resend it. So I can confirm that that's the correct. Now this is our audit trail, a terrific little archiving little utility. Now again, this whole process then can be fully automated so that you can set up the distributions and then have that still interactive capability to go in with an audit trail and see what was sent. You can do a search, you can view it, and you can resend it without having to regenerate the original report. What if that statement spool file doesn't even exist anymore? Well, it doesn't matter. If we were able to electronically file it, then I can send them that specific piece. Now the benefits of automation should be obvious, but let's think about it for a moment. First of all, it executes automatically. There's no need for an interactive person to push a button to make something happen. It just happens. It doesn't, the Sentry doesn't forget to run the report or the forms. It doesn't call in sick. It doesn't go on vacation. What this does is it allows your staff to focus on their core responsibilities, which is contributing to the bottom line of your organization. Now, electronic filing, as we've talked about, is pretty neat. Some people call it visual archiving, where you could identify a hierarchy set up. For example, this server might be, the file cabinet. In that server, you might have, subtrees, set up for like a file drawer. Maybe this would be customers, and then the file folder might be PineSoft, and then the file name might be invoice number 12345. But it could be handling forms, reports, et cetera, et cetera. Imagine if you can eliminate the need to get up and walk around the office looking for hard copy because you can just double-click from your desktop and locate either a report or a form instantly. You have instant access. It's going to improve efficiency and costs tremendously. Now, I don't want anyone to get overwhelmed because I'm not going into great detail explaining how this stuff is set up for two reasons. One, there's just not enough time. And second of all, you don't need to know all of that because our terrific technical service team is here to help you. If you ever want to set something up, then all you have to do is contact them, ask them, how do I set up this distribution? I saw Chris do it in a demo. Show me what I'm doing. Well, that's real simple. They'll walk you through it step by step. Now, notice we have some unique features about our maintenance. First of all, our maintenance never increases. You lock in the price that you purchase it at, and you don't have to worry about budgeting for 15 or 20% increases annually. It's always going to remain the same. We have a superior technical service team. They're located here in our headquarters in Atlanta, Georgia. We don't outsource anything to a call center in another country. Support includes free updates, enhancements. If you ever upgrade your system, we don't charge for license transfers. And we offer a no-risk guarantee to make sure that you have everything you need and that you love it. And if you don't, then you just cancel the order and owe us nothing. Speaking of owing, what does that mean? Okay, well, what about the pricing? The pricing is going to vary. It depends on what you want to do because our software is modular. So it's fully customizable. A typical report conversion and distribution, fully automated, would run less than $5,000. If you're just looking to eliminate pre-printed forms with electronic forms, you're looking about $3,600. Everything that we looked at today would be less than $10,000, all the modules together. So it just, again, the smart thing to do would be to contact us, discuss what your goals are for a project like this. We can recommend which modules would fit, and we needed to do that. Then we can provide you with more specific pricing. But again, with the average solution pricing being less than $5,000, It's pretty remarkable, and we're so confident. Again, we do offer risk-free 30-day money-back guarantee. So with this kind of assurance, you can start automating your System I report conversion and distribution now and start saving some serious money with complete peace of mind. But don't take our word for it. These are some quotes that have appeared in print from some of our customers. You may have seen an article in the IBM Systems magazine about a year ago talking about how Pacific Seafoods implemented the Flex tools. They initially looked at just electronic forms but added the report distribution. Once they did, they realized that they were going to save over 2.3 million sheets of paper annually. Now, I just can't help but think of the reams or the pallets that the 2.3 million sheets of paper would occupy. Their estimate was $25,000. That's the kind of real green that you want to see going to your bottom line. Jules by Park Lane, they justified this project is estimating that they would be saving approximately $8,000 a year in the distribution costs. They've been using the software for several years now and can much more accurately put their finger on it, and they estimate they're saving over $100,000 a year in postage, paper, and man hours. $100,000 a year on an investment that costs less than $5,000. Now, it doesn't really matter the type of industry. Here's a bank, Citizens National Bank, that they were printing their end-of-day reports on impact printers on green bar paper. They've eliminated that process by now converting their daily reports to PDF and placing them out on a network server. And they've gotten rid of 4 or 5 of these impact printers they don't need. At $1,500 per year service contract, that's substantial, and they're saving $750 a month just in paper. Again, the return on investment on this is significant. You're talking about a full payback in less than 6 months typically. English Color and Supply, a small paint company out in the Texas area, they're emailing and faxing their statements, just like I showed you in the example here, and they're saving over $400 per week just in postage. That doesn't include paper. That doesn't include the time and man hours involved with the kind of distribution that's involved. Now, you might see some logos up here, some of our customers that are readily identifiable. Coca-Cola, Pepsi, GlaxoSmithKline, Toyota, Arby's uses our software, so does Burger King, so does Wendy's, even LL Bean, whose pants I'm wearing at the moment, cities, governments. It really doesn't matter. Our whole philosophy and focus on the System I platform has been rewarded with over 1,000 installations since opening our doors in 2002. And our customers range from small family-owned businesses to Fortune 100 international corporations. So whether your business is finance, manufacturing, distribution, or even a government agency, the DRV Flex tools can save you significant time, a ton of money, and all this for a very small investment. We're going to take questions here in a moment. We'll be ending the recording in just a second. But I would like to invite you all, if you'd like to take a closer look or get more information about electronic report and document output management to modernize your applications, DRV is available at the numbers you see here. We'll be happy to make arrangements to discuss your application and recommend ways to help you move toward a paperless environment. Thank you for joining us. Have a great day.